Well, not enough,
Broadcaster.
Yep. Broadcaster. You were the one.
Lisa, it's nice to meet you.
This is Joanne.
Hi, it's very nice to meet you.
And let's see. We've got
Jim Pratt.
Hi. Please, Kevin, nice to meet you.
Welcome, everybody. Here we go, closing it off.
But I sent you some text every once in a while. Oh, you're the guy. We're posting this actually tomorrow.
All right. So, if you guys want, you can come check out the aircraft. You're welcome to ask any questions you like. Aidan's going to cover a lot of stuff in the LZ class with you, so you may have a bunch of questions now that'll probably also get answered at that time too. But you're welcome to come check it out, and we'll show you what it's all about.
And feel free to take pictures too. It makes for a great Facebook profile picture.
Ooh.
You take the other ones off of what do you call it? Oh, the flowers. Flowers, yeah. What kind of phone do you have? Samsung?
He did point me in the direction of a nice editor.
That's all I did for 6 years. Great editor. What is it? Snapseed? Oh,
Alright, so before we really get started, just a quick rundown. This is the A-Star or AS350 made by Eurocopter. Single engine, 3 blades, reasonable lift capacity, because there's not a lot of extra engine and transmission and weight and stuff like that comes with the larger helicopters. So we still do pretty well with this one. One pilot, one nurse, one medic, always. We don't leave the ground without that. Although we're both wearing nurse name tags, we're also both paramedics. So we kind of have 2 of each today, depending on what name tag we want to put on. Full capabilities, same as every other aircraft in our LifeNet of NY system, in that we have the ventilators, the invasive line monitoring, the IV pumps and stuff like that. So don't think just because it's a slightly smaller helicopter, we don't do as much. We still do the exact same care for the patients. So that's not an issue at all. I do want to point out we made 1 extra lap in the air here because someone was standing in the LZ.
That was me.
I understand some of us that are a little, been around a little longer, we used to stand in the middle of the LZ and guide people in and give special hand and arm signals and stuff. We've gotten away from that over the years as a safety issue. People tripping while they're trying to back up in the LZ, you get sprained ankles and someone's laying there and you can't finish landing. So once you mark out the area and check for obstacles and slopes and such, after that, these days, we just ask that you go ahead and step on back. We'll talk to you on the radio, you tell us where it is, tell things. We don't really need the whole come down right here kind of thing anymore. So as a safety issue, that's why we did an extra go around. I just wanted to point that out. We don't really look for that anymore. I see you got a line pulled off your truck too. That's a firefighter policy. If your department demands that, that's fine. Feel free. Some places we land, they're sitting there right at the edge of the LZ with the line charged, and then they got to go home and dry their hoses for no good reason. Because frankly, if we ball it up and it catches on fire, your water is just going to spread the kerosene around. But if it makes you feel better and it's your department policy, go ahead. It's not anything we require. Again, older policies and stuff, they used to want people to have charged lines and whatnot because it felt like the right thing to do. But over time, it's proved it's not really the right thing to do. Unless you've got a whole tank full of foam to put things down, we're not going to really accomplish much of anything.
And that's one of the things that'll be visited in the presentation that Aidan's going to give you too, kind of talking about that.
Yeah, those are just high points I usually like to hit on these things because you guys are really here for the LZ. I like to talk medical stuff, but you guys don't care so much about that. You're here to make sure we get on the ground safely. And that's another point that Aidan will certainly cover for us as he gets into his talk. When we're on the radio, good job giving us the information we need. Are there any obstacles, trees, wires, slopes, big holes in the ground, things that will make our helicopter sit at funny angles and run the blades into the ground? Good approach paths. While we're here, again, Aidan will cover this for you guys, but if you put your arm up at a 45-degree angle while you're standing in the middle of the LZ and go like this, anything that's above your hand is things that we're going to hit on the way in. So those we definitely need to know. Your wires are actually not too terrible here, which is why it's a nice safe landing zone. But if you stand here and do this and there's something sticking up above your hand that's not my helicopter, that's probably not a great LZ. So that's an easy way to do that. And I think those are the really high points I like to hit before we get into the nitty-gritty of things. So, anything you want to share?
The other thing too is that even when the helicopter is shut down, we just ask people to stay towards the front of it and stay away from the tail rotor. Even though it is shut down, just staying away from that, because obviously when it's operational, that's a pretty dangerous place to be. So we try to just practice that safety with everyone and keep good habits and kind of stay forward of that.
And even when it is shut down, there's still all kinds of antennas back there, which
yes.
if you accidentally bump one of those and it falls off, you get guests. We get to stay here till the mechanic comes to fix them. All right, so feel free to step up, ask any questions. I'm going to post myself on the far side here where the patient loading system is, and ask away.
Okay.
I can talk for a long time about absolutely nothing.
and very good and important things also.
Who is flying it?
So David is our pilot.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of the smallest, I think this is the smallest aircraft that we have actually. As you can see, it's pretty cozy in here. We make it work, and we have the side loading stretcher for the patient. So some of our larger aircraft you might see have clamshell doors that open, and you'll see pictures and overview of the different aircraft in the presentation. But in this area, so we're the closest ones to this area. If you ever need us, we would be the first ones available. And then we're stationed in Sydney at the airport. Yeah. So I think it was like an 8-minute flight to come down here, was it? Yeah, about 8 minutes to come down here. So this is the one you'd probably see most often. We have the same kind of aircraft coming out of our Harris base. And then the one that's in Sarah, Pennsylvania is a little bit of a bigger one with those clamshell doors I talked about. Yeah. Yep, yeah, it's Guthrie. It's still, Guthrie is partnered with LifeNet of New York, so it's all part of the same program, but they're Guthrie / LifeNet. It works.
I did flight observer.
Oh yeah.
The first time I went up, they didn't get any calls.
Yep.
The second time I went up, they didn't get any calls. We got standby, but that was it. And then the third time I went up, I flew over the Rocky Run race station.
Oh yeah.
Just to stand by for the race.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's always a little bit hit or miss, and one of the things Aidan will go over too is the opportunity to ride along. It is something, out of this area, the closest is going to be the base of Sarah, Pennsylvania, the Guthrie.
Walk them right up, get them down.
So that's something, because this one,
yeah, that's the part I was wondering, was how you guys did the transfer from the
stretcher. Yes. Hopefully they are on a sheet. You know, not so much on a backboard anymore. We kind of try to shy away from those. They've been shown to do more harm than good for people, but a lot of our EMS providers are still in the mindset a couple years later, putting everyone on backboards. So hopefully there's a sheet involved in there somewhere.
Sometimes it's hard to break it. You know,
oh, it's very hard to break habits.
An old dog in the bridge, no?
Very hard to break habits. That's why we talk about them a lot. We all try to learn continuously.
Which hospital do you normally go to?
From here, everything's dependent on what's wrong with the patient. Wilson and Binghamton can handle strokes and light trauma. If it's heavy trauma, where they need a level 1 center, actually I'm not greatly familiar with the geography here because this isn't my home helicopter, but I know depending on where we are in the area, either Albany or Syracuse is closest to us.
Probably Syracuse.
Probably Syracuse from here? Okay. It's very hard to tell which direction you're flying.
From Binghamton, drive time to Syracuse, you're talking like an hour and 15.
Yeah.
To Albany, you're looking like 2:15.
Okay, I didn't know how close we were to Binghamton from here.
It's like a half-hour drive time.
Okay. So we're closer to Binghamton than not. We didn't go towards Cooperstown way?
No.
All right. See, I don't even know where I am right now. That's one of the things. I get in,
you just get the
when we
coordinates
land,
as you go
I get
down.
out. I don't know where I actually am.
You just follow the coordinates and tell them where you're at.
I don't even do that. He does that. Yeah. I get in, and when we land, I get out. I have no clue where I am. I could not. If you gave me a map of New York State right now, I have no clue where I am.
The dual engine aircraft is great for a lot of things, but the single engine is also very capable.
I live up in the Watertown area up by Canada, so that's my home base, is our Watertown aircraft.
So that's my understanding.
And fly down.
Yeah. So we got 2 bags of assorted medications and equipment, a bunch more stuff on the back wall, IV and suction stuff, our ventilators between us. We got an IV pump with 3 channels, a heart monitor. Everything your ground ambulance carries, plus a lot of ICU type equipment that we use and do.
We may spend a couple extra minutes on the ground to make sure that everything's sorted out.
You see them too, right? Okay, good. I'm not hallucinating. Well, we confirm that.
What? No.
Well, it doesn't really matter. You're not flying, so if you're seeing things you don't.
No, but I need to be able to take care of patients. Life-changing decisions in a split second require full mental capability.
Do you have a type of call that you most go on, or is it just whatever?
You know, surprisingly different areas of the state, the EMS folks call us for different number of
Oh, I
things.
see, yes.
Up in Watertown, probably 60% of our business is strokes, because there's no stroke center up in the North Country area.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So the only way to get someone to a stroke center in a reasonable time is to call a helicopter. I only work down here about 5-6 times a year, so for this base I couldn't tell you necessarily what they do more of. I know I've done, of the calls I've done here, there have been some heart attacks, a couple strokes, but mostly trauma for here, from what I've seen. But again, my exposure is kind of limited.
So somebody here might do more than others. And despite the fact that I'm in Virginia, I know that they've got the same training that I have, and that we're all on the same page with what we're expected to do.
Is there a decision process you use to be called in?
That I use?
Or is used, or should be used? Or?
As far as who needs it, there's a lot of different decision processes that get used. You know, that's not really up to us.
Yeah.
But for ground EMS, we try to advocate for whatever's best for the patient.
I see.
If the patient has a time-sensitive injury or illness, so usually strokes and heart attacks are your big time-sensitive illnesses. And trauma, of course, you don't want them outside of a trauma center too long. And it depends on what your time savings is going to be. You know, I'm a big advocate for mobilize your resources and then decide what you need when you get there. We do like to be put on standby because it gets us ready or actually moving towards the patient. And if you cancel us later, we don't care, no big deal. So if we can do standbys, great. If you think you're going to need us, please call. But the actual decision process is pretty much left up to the EMS system and the EMS provider themselves. They know their area, they know their patient population, they know their resources of their local hospitals and how fast they can get to them. You know, the American College of Surgeons has its own trauma triage process that says who should go where. But a lot of times New York State and the local protocols supersede that or try to change it. So I can't even speak to what's going through each individual medic's or EMT's mindset as to when to call. I know when I'm working on the ground, and I'm working an hour from a trauma center, so if I have any trauma at all, that sounds kind of bad, I want my helicopter on standby, and if I get there and it's something beyond the capabilities of my local hospital, then I want my patient flown. I want to get them where they can go. Any MI, I don't have a cath lab anywhere near me, so they need to go. And any stroke, again, like I said, we don't have any stroke centers up in the North Country, so those need to go. Those are my three big things when I'm working as a ground paramedic that I want flown.
What was the first one you said? Year 3, what was the first?
Heart attacks, strokes, and trauma. Three extremely time-sensitive injuries. We've saved a lot of lives that way.
Right. Well, I know, like, a lot of times we put on standby, you know, then you get there and it's like, you don't fit.
Oh, yeah.
Oops, sorry.
But they said
Those are my favorite.
I bet they are.
Because you know what I get out of that? I get a scenic flight, and I don't have to write a chart.
You don't even have to land, just go.
Right. I get a scenic flight around the country wherever I am. It's always beautiful, and I don't have to write a chart later. So I love standby.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
So you will never get in trouble from us for putting a helicopter on standby because A, we're ready, and B, the worst case that happens, we burn a couple gallons of fuel. And we don't bill anybody for that.
Do you all want to take a group photo?
Yeah.
With everybody? We'll grab a group photo on the front of this side with the pilot and that.
1 out of those 10 times you decide you need
Y'all
us,
want to be in front?
and we're that much closer and we're already there, then that's what makes the difference.